Folks, for 16 years, I have patiently waited to drive a vehicle reimagined by Singer Vehicle Design, and today, the day has come. Well, not actually. You see, they sort of push you off to the side, and then the way you really get a drive is to find a private owner with a Singer. Let them drive, they let you drive the car, you post it on Instagram that you've driven an owner's car, and then they call you back immediately. So that's what I did. I drove my friend's car at the track, and then wouldn't you know it, this is the classic Turbo 964 reimagined by Singer. Clearly 930 inspired. This particular example, the Fuji Commission, is a lightweight sport model with carbon seats, lightweight door panels, and some other touches. What you are looking at is a whole new thing from Singer. Not only is it a forced induction engine compared to their classic 964 Restomods, but this is a car really reimagined from the ground up to be a complete car. They have a factory, not a shop. It can be registered through TÜV in Germany and in all 50 states. It is a hugely, hugely important accomplishment, and now I'm going to shut up because we're going to get in it and drive. Guys, today's video is brought to you by one of my favorite sponsors, Carl Friedrich. They make these amazing luggage sets that I have carried all over the world. No joke, I travel probably a third of every month throughout the year, and I have been carrying Carl Friedrich luggage for like 5 years now. First the gray, then the blue, and now they've got the new Williams F1 collab in the white with the blue trim and with the new locking zippers. Very cool stuff. What I love about this thing is A, how tough it is. In 5 years, I've never dented or cracked one. B, the wheels. What a beautiful glide. I am absolutely ripping it through the terminal, sending it off on its own practically. Like Carlos Sainz, the wheels are smooth operators. It's really sturdy with my backpack on top, and the handle incredibly strong. Fits in the front of the supercar, looks great on the deck of the super yacht. Get one for yourself. Hit that link in the video description, and thank you to Carl Friedrich for sponsoring today's video. Special day in Smoking Tire Land, kids, because this is the Porsche 964 reimagined by Singer as part of their Turbo Classic restoration services or something like that. The lawyer made me do it. Yeah, buddy, a turbocharged Singer vehicle design restored 911. This is a Torito. We have a Porsche 964 with its original engine, mind you, punched out to 3.8 liters, twin turbocharged with the 992's variable geometry turbos and air-to-water intercooling. And the result is 510 unbelievably smooth horsepower right here. Woo! And like a classic 930 turbo, they've programmed in some lag. It's a little zingy. We've got a 6-speed gearbox that is sourced, actually, it's the same one they use for the DLS, which is pretty awesome. Ratios are great, the feel is great. Car weighs around 3,000 pounds, and as we know, 500 horsepower, 3,000 pounds, that is like the Parthenon golden ratio for sports cars. You can hear the squeaking. That's because I'm a little too fat for the carbon seat, and the suede is rubbing on this bit of carbon here. If I suck in my fatness, it stops. Singer, everything is important, right? and they absolutely deliver on that promise. My overall vibe of this car from my first drive is, it is the first ever restored car I have ever driven, ever, where there is absolutely no evidence whatsoever that any car was there before. And I mean that from a visual, tactile, and a dynamic perspective. Absolutely unbelievable. No one else has done it. Ooh, let's talk about Brembo ceramic brakes on a floor-hinged pedal. That is a unique driving experience, my friends. Woo! Very rewarding. It's analog, which usually requires an equal and opposite amount of effort from the driver. Not so here. I could do 1,000 miles in this thing. Easy. The clutch is light. The engine is smooth. Oh yeah, it's fast, but extremely balanced. Ride is very good. I mean, because it's got a carbon body, except for the doors, which are steel, you know, you do hear a little bit of that thinness, right? Like Ford GTs or Ferrari Specials. Cars with a lot of carbon, you get a little of that thinness, but that's the trade-off. But the ride and the general sense of it being a solid product, being one piece, all there. The ride is exceptional. The way it maintains a contact patch, very good. It doesn't have a ton of front tire, 245s at the front, so it doesn't tramline so much. Oh, yeah. Turning radius is not great. The Turbo Classics come in 2 specifications, sort of light sport and touring luxury. I've now driven both. Shout out to the homie Sam of Willow Springs, right, who let me drive his comfort version. And I almost wish this one was that, not because of anything dynamically, but the interior in that, with the leather shaping and the way the door cards were shaped, the way the seats were shaped. These is nice, lightweight doors, thin with the tartan fabric. I'm about that, but the leather was fabulous. The steering has a beautiful weight to it. Absolutely balanced amount of feedback. Woo! Wow, full throttle in 4th is really something. It's wild. Porsche, man, if Preuninger drove this, he'd be pissed. Because Porsche themselves can't do this. Porsche can't build an air-cooled twin-turbo, engine anymore. They can't remake the 930. It's not happening. But you have to believe that someone sat down at Singer and said, if Porsche could release a vehicle today that looks and is the vibe of the 930, but with what a modern customer expects out of performance, usability, and quality, what would that be? What would that look like? Now make it a money, no object purchase. And this is where you've ended up. It's amazing. It feels like Porsche could have built the car themselves. That's how it drives, that's how it looks, that's how it feels to the touch. God damn, this thing awesome. Now you start talking about, well, is it worth $1 million? I don't know, man. I don't know what it's like to have $1 million to blow on a car. I would have to liquidate my entire collection, and then maybe I could have one of these. And am I going to do that? No, I'm not going to do that. But do I understand? Oh yeah, I get it. If you're at a point in your life where money isn't a thing, and I've been to Singer's factory in Torrance, there's plenty of those people. This is it. This is where the old meets the new. Okay, put it into context. Roof and their carbon tubbed cars. totally unique, totally amazing. Water-cooled engines, very fast, but in their own little world. Gunther, raw, aggressive, handling of a modern GT3 with an air-cooled car. Does not seem like the kind of thing Porsche could or would build. Very aggressive, unforgettable, but not for every day. This is the daily. This is, I live in a beautiful place, I have a nice commute, I want to drive a car that makes me feel good every day, but won't beat me up along the way.
Longtime listeners of the podcast or this channel will know that I've had some ongoing back issues for about 7 years, and I think I re-herniated my disc 4 days before filming this. If there's a car that is worth a bit of pain and effort for, it is this one. Oh, that is just the most perfect, sweetest power band. You know, you've got this famous Mezger engine, of course, but you have turbos from the 992, which means they have all the modern tech, variable vanes, etc. We have electronic wastegates, so they spool nice and early, but also have plenty of shove up top. Price is obviously a very subjective thing. A lot of people will look at what this costs and, you know, I can never afford it. Many of you can never afford it. And that usually brings up the question of why. Why does something that only has 500 horsepower cost so much money? Especially when there are other independent shops out there that can give you a 450 horsepower turbocharged or not Restomod 911, and they'll sell it to you for a lot less money. And they might have some colorful seats or some good suspension. Some will have bad suspension, etc. It's because of the development cost. For example, this has a Bosch ABS unit and a Bosch traction control unit. And in order to get that from Bosch, you have to send them a car. A development car had to go to Bosch, and they had to do their wet and dry and cold weather testing to tune the traction control system. You don't just buy it off the shelf. You have to send them a car. Singer also wanted this car to be approved by TÜV, which is the road safety governing body in Germany. So they had to give a car to TÜV to drive for, I was told, 3,000 kilometers to make sure that the car was safe to drive in all of the conditions that Germany requires a car to demonstrate its ability in. And then they took the car to hot weather places and cold weather places. They pretty much give their cars the same trials and tribulations in development driving that OEMs do. And that is an expensive process. But if you imagine that they put that kind of attention and effort into the drivability and reliability of their cars, it's no wonder that they put the same obsessive attention to ride and power band and throttle mapping and textures and seats and the design and the shape. I know it's a cliche. Their motto is everything is important, but they mean it. God, and you can feel it in the result. I mean, this steering is hydraulic and it is absolutely perfect. It's the right amount of light. It's the right amount of heavy. I get plenty of texture through the wheel. I can feel these vibrations in the steering wheel, so I know what the front wheels are doing. But I'm not feeling those vibrations through the seat. I was really concerned about my ride comfort today because this road is a little bit bumpy. But honestly, between the suspension setup and these amazing seats that have such great cushioning, I am more comfortable in this than I was in the G-Wagon we drove here. This carbon wheel, I mean, just the dish to it, it catches your thumb so perfectly. It gives them such good purchase. But the leather on the outside is nice and sticky. I mean, I don't know if I've ever felt so sure-footed or sure-fingered in my life. The turn-in is great. The ride is great. The visibility is amazing, obviously. And you get out and you look at the thing. And curse words just flow from my mouth because I don't have a big enough vocabulary to express myself. Jeez, and then you get into the boost. And this is as fast as a car needs to be. We're sub 3,000 pounds. We're just north of 500 horsepower. Perfect. Cut. Print. You don't need more than that. For driving joy, you don't need more than that. And let's be real. If you own one of these, you probably have a McLaren or a Ferrari or something else that gives you all that hyper horsepower you might want now and then. Singer is so good at blending motorsport feel with a grand touring aspect. You know, the cars are exciting enough without feeling scary. They're not raw, but they are, you know, just on the comfortable side of that. I mean, the shifter gives me lots of feedback. I know what gear I'm in, it feels really solid. But there is a little bit of softness to it where the shifter's not trembling and vibrating. It doesn't sound like someone's trying to drill through one of my cavities. If I had to choose a car to drive for 10 hours straight, it would be this one. I might get there slightly later than the Gunther Works because that thing had about 300 more horsepower, but I would arrive with my ears intact. God damn. These people know how to build a f***ing car. I understand why this is the bar for not just Porsche Restomods, but pretty much all of them. I swear, you could cut open the tire of this car, and the people at Singer probably changed the molecules of air in some way to optimize it for this use. Woo! Fast enough! Fast enough! We are cooking. I can't see most of the speedometer beyond 60 miles per hour because of the position of the steering wheel in my head. But I think this is a car you drive by feel most of the time anyway. You go with the flow of traffic. And if you're the only traffic, you make your own flow. That's what I think. The cynical side of me can say, you know, some people have too much money where a normal Ferrari isn't enough. They need a bespoke carbon fiber one. But Singer is an example, though, of what happens when great minds focus on one thing to a degree that is almost concerning. But the result is some of the greatest art and engineering to ever be merged together. So I'm glad it exists. I'm so glad I got up this morning. It was absolutely worth the 10-minute process to tie my shoes to be here. I could have put on flip-flops. I drive a lot of cars with flip-flops. This didn't seem like the right car for it.
And remember, always fight your tickets on the Off the Record app available in the Android and iOS store, or go to offtherecord.com/TST.